Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, chapter 73. And now that chapter 73 is done in the books, we got a lot to talk about here, because we got the cake woman gag that is continuing on with Ada. I got a few things I want to say about that. You got Sasuke sensing Momoshiki's presence. You got Kawaki sensing Momoshiki's presence. The circumstances for why Momoshiki froze time briefly when he appeared in front of Boruto in this chapter, and the overall ramifications in terms of some of the scaling issues, as well as how big of a threat Konoha actually views Ada to be. There's quite a bit to actually unpack and digest here in this chapter. So backing things up, the chapter opens up where you have the Hokage office being shown, and Viz Media actually did a solid one for us by adding in a translator note, something that they don't do enough with Boruto. Team 7, as they're walking through the Hokage tower, you have Team 7 wondering what it is that they could actually be doing that requires their team on there. When Boruto and Kawaki have the moment where they meet, we get the revelation that this is the first time that we've had the two of them meet in universe since Kawaki killed Boruto. And Kawaki's language here is very telling, because he uses the word revive in front of Sarda and Mitsuki. They're under the impression that Code tried to kill Boruto, not that he actually succeeded in it. That's foreshadowing. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take us for us to have that paid off. I kind of feel like that's just more set up for eventually Team 7 learning that Kawaki actually carried through with killing Boruto, and the fact that Sumere's there and she knows the truth, and right after Kawaki uses those words, we get the flashback panel where Sumere is recalling the fact that Kawaki admitted to killing Boruto right in front of Naruto. And then that's when we jump over and we have the moments where Sumere, she's gushing over Boruto, and you see her blushing. Boruto's completely oblivious, like your typical shonen main character. The girl's got the hots for him. But we see a few small moments in this chapter where Ikimoto, he's playing with expressions more. You can really see it in how he was trying to use Ada and Boruto, trying to implement some of those humor elements. I don't think he quite landed it, but that is an improvement over what we've seen in the past. And to his own admittance, drawing eyes, drawing mouths, drawing expressions, Tsukenbo humor, that's all stuff that he struggles with. So I commend the guy for at least trying. But for some of these shots in the chapter, I guarantee you when the anime gets his hands on it, different things like changing the angles around and making some of the expressions a little more over the top, the anime is going to correct it, because for these scenes to effectively hit with how they're written, you needed those to land more. But that's not to say that everything in this is bad. I think sometimes people focus too much on when I critique. There are good moments in here, like when Kawaki will be shown focusing in on Boruto and you see the scene slow down so you can see the close-up with his eyes. That was very well done, and it really helps set some of the tension for the scene. But in this moment right there, that's where everything shifts over, and Konohamaru and Shikamaru just jump right into explaining the situation. And I like the tonal shift after this, because this had the potential of feeling like it was going to be a slice of life, Team 7's just meeting in the Hokage office type thing. That's not exactly where this goes, because Shikamaru comes out with this one guns blazing. He's taking the time to brief Team 7, let them know what's going on. At the same time though, he's using very pointed language. Boruto is somebody that's used to Shikamaru calling him a brat. That's not going to phase him the wrong way, but Kawaki takes exception to a few things Shikamaru says. Like when Shikamaru tells him that you are a threat to Konoha, we can't actually deal with you because of how strong you are now that you have the Karma Seal, and you and Boruto are bombs. It's very pointed language, and this is the one time I do think Naruto made a mistake by allowing Shikamaru himself to be the one that is given the briefing and not have Naruto Naruto there, because Naruto could have defused that. But as we'll learn later on, Naruto couldn't be there because Naruto had to address the situation with Sasuke. So Shikamaru, when it comes to that Kawaki ticking time bomb, it almost feels like one of those things, because of the language that he's using, it's going to set Kawaki up to have resentment towards him. Between this and what you see in the anime, there's no love lost between these two characters, but Shikamaru lets him know that Amada was forced to take Code's limiters off, and that manga does a good job of addressing something I've been screaming from the rooftops for over a year now. Number one, Momoshiki can still take over Boruto's body, even though Momoshiki can't resurrect inside of it. That's why Boruto's referred to as being a ticking time bomb. But most importantly, Code, Ada, Damon, these cyborgs with powers that go beyond Jigen. People were still saying like, oh, that means they're stronger than Ishiki, and I kept saying no, they're stronger than Jigen. We just need to know which Jigen they're referring to. Jigen juiced up on Jubi Chakra, or Jigen before the Jubi Chakra, who Kawaki sensed and thought that Naruto in his 6-pass chakra mode was stronger than the Jigen that he knew. Shikamaru, as he's given the debriefing and tells Team 7, you're not gonna fight Code, he lets them know these cyborgs, they're stronger than Jigen, but he specifically says they're weaker than Ishiki. So that should dead all this stuff that I've been trying to clear up over the last year, where people told me I was incorrect when I would make the videos beyond Baryon mode. Has Ishiki been surpassed? And I would take the time to say they're stronger than Jigen but weaker than Ishiki, and I try and use that language of like, beyond Baryon mode, has it been surpassed? Using power charts and everything on the thumbnail to grab your attention, be like, oh my god, is this true? And then take the time in the video to say, yo, there's a huge jump in power between Ishiki and Jigen. Ishiki's a lot stronger than Jigen. People need to stop freaking out. Boruto and Kawaki are not anywhere near that, which this chapter goes on to confirm just that. And as Shikamaru tells them in the chapter, they can deal with the Jigen level threat. It will be extremely difficult to take on somebody that is stronger than Jigen, but it's not going to be impossible like it was with Ishiki, where you needed a divine act of nature moment where Kurama was able to use Baryon mode and Ishiki's life force was already draining away due to using Jigen's body. So I like that the manga cleared this up. Now, as you see Shikamaru giving this information over to Team 7, Kawaki takes a lot of exception to what Shikamaru is saying, and Sarada and Mitsuki were listening the whole time, and both of them step in and defuse it, and Mitsuki's like, calm down for a second, and Sarada says, hey, he is telling the truth. You are pretty strong right now. He's just laying out the facts so we know what we're getting ourselves into. And Shikamaru then proceeds to tell them about Ada, and I'll give Ikimoto credit for this. That panel where you see Shikamaru and you have Ada in the backdrop, very good use of that panel right there. That was very well done to make it seem like Ada was watching over Shikamaru, because she actually is watching. Her powers of enchantment and her ability to observe, it's very similar to what Makima is able to do from Chainsaw Man. No secret is safe with these characters, and the way that the paneling was used like this to utilize it, that was really good. There was another panel later on in the chapter that plays this off, where the two of them are positioned in the panels directly across from each other, making it seem like they're speaking to one another. There are certain things that manga can do that anime can't actually utilize. I thought that that was very well done in those two panels right there. Now, there were some hiccups in the chapter itself, like Ikimoto's assistants are going to have to go back and correct some of the mistakes made, like Sarada having a Rogue Ninja headband and Boruto's headband at times not having the Rogue Ninja insignia. There's a few things here, but there are, again, where there are bright spots, there are bright spots to stand out with the paneling, but where there are some mistakes, there are some noticeable mistakes. But that's what assistants are for. They're meant to clean this stuff up for the physical manga volume release. But as Shikamaru begins to start briefing Team 7 on their mission to have Boruto and Kawaki cohabitate with Ada, one thing that you do see here is that Shikamaru correctly states to them, hey, it's more than just appeasing Ada so we can track down Code. If we allow Ada to run unchecked, if she decides not to work with Konoha, we can't stop her. All jutsu, all abilities, all powers, they're essentially nerfed because of her, and if she wanted to, she could take over all 5 nations. There's nobody that could stop her. Shikamaru lets them know this is a dangerous situation. We have to deploy you guys. But what I find interesting right here is it confirms something. Amato purposely left out when he was explaining Ada's powers that blood relatives are exempt from Ada's abilities. That's key information to leave out because he's putting a lot of emphasis on you need to have Sasuke DNA in order to be able to withstand their powers. That's why we have to have Boruto and Kawaki there. That's going to be something I think eventually comes back up, and Shikamaru is not going to be happy when he learns that Amato didn't reveal the blood relative part, because if you can find one of Ada's relatives, that gives you another tool to use. Not necessarily for the romance angle, but at least with a blood relative, if there's one there, if you can track one down, it can start giving her some of those bonds that she's looking for that she ain't been able to establish. Like, she has Damon and we know that she cares about Damon, but there's a difference. Damon can kill her. Somebody that's a blood relative who can't actually kill her has the potential to offer her that bond that she's looking for, just not a romantic bond. So jumping a little further into the chapter itself, we really see some of those Sasuke genes come out of Sarda, because she put everything together and she said, okay, so our true mission is going to be surveillance. Boruto and Kawaki are going to be the ones that interact with Ada. So what exactly are Mitsuki and myself going to do? And that's when we learn that Konohamaru, Sarda, and Mitsuki are going to be watching everything from a distance, which that lines up with something we know. As long as you're not in the same room as Ada, her enchantment can't work on you. But Shikamaru does point out, hey, we don't know for certain, so keep your distance. You'll be working with the sensory unit. If you see anything crazy, you need to report it. However, there could be unforeseen circumstances that pop up that you're going to have to make decisions on. This is a grave mission. Konoha's village security is in your hands, because we can't risk having Ada turn against Konoha, and then that's when Kawaki gets a real reality check. In the manga, Kawaki, outside of Himawari, there hasn't been anybody that he hasn't called a bastard. So it's one of those things where Shikamaru lets him know, you cannot piss off Ada. That is key to our mission, but he builds in a backdoor, because Shikamaru and Konohamaru make Boruto aware of the fact that, like, hey, you are going to be a mediator, make sure things don't get out of control. However, there's no guarantee that Ada and Kawaki would hit it off, which means if you read between the lines, and Boruto certainly did, if Ada and Kawaki don't hit it off, you're going to have to be the person that kind of wins over Ada. Whether or not that means romantically, that remains to be seen, but that was there. And you get the shot where Boruto is like, this mission sucks. Again, we see Ikimoto trying to implement some of the comedy stuff, but by his own admittance, again, he can't draw comedy, and that's plainly clear here with Boruto's expression. I will say there was a nice shot where you had Sumire, where she's giving Boruto the side eye, where Boruto's like, hey, can't anybody fall under her enchantment ability? So it doesn't necessarily have to be me or Kawaki. And Sumire, it goes from, wait a second, so do I got to worry about Ada because she's giving this man the side eye? But then she starts thinking, and she makes a bombshell revelation where she's like, I think that I pity Ada. She doesn't say specifically she pities Ada, but it's implied there. And here's why. Because Sumire is saying to have the ability to control people and control their hearts and emotions, you don't know whether or not people like you for you. I don't think that she would want love from somebody if she doesn't know if it's genuine. She wants to experience true, genuine love. I don't know for certain, but that's what I would be thinking if I was her. And I like that Sumire makes this connection, because what this shows us is Ada is just drawn thinking to herself after that, and that's basically saying, this girl, she gets me, which that opens up the door for Sumire and Boruto. Once Kawaki inevitably ends up blowing this thing up with Ada, those two characters might be able to actually win her over. I do feel like that is setup. That is clear setup. The one thing I would say about that panel with Ada, while it's good, I really feel like that scene would have been slowed down a little bit more, and we would have got more emphasis on Ada's eyes and mouth. That could have done a lot for characterization. Like, I get it that those are areas where Ikimoto struggles, but he's shown flashes where, like he did when Naruto broke down crying when he saw that Boruto was revived. Like, the talent's there. It's just a matter of getting the consistency now. That's where you take the step from being a good mangaka to being a truly great one. That angle that he's got at Ada, I think that angle could have been flipped around a little bit to give more emphasis on the eyes, or at least extra panels done to show emphasis on the eyes and the mouth to better convey emotion, to start making that character a little more sympathetic. Because what you're getting here is Sumire is clearly being used to try and tell us why Ada should be sympathetic. That's where the art also has to show it. show versus tell. Now, one final thing before we wrap up the section about Team 7's mission, I'm very curious to know what the Japanese translation actually says, because you can tell that Viz Media has cleaned up some of Kishimoto's dirty kanji. For those of you guys who do not know, Japanese has 3 different alphabets, and what Kishimoto will often do is he will use words that can be translated a few different ways, and there's usually a dirty joke hidden in between all that. And I think the standout line is the cohabitation, because in the chapter where Ada turned on Code and Amato was explaining to Code how Ada cohabitating with Code was going to lower her chances of getting with Kawaki, there was a sexual joke that was slipped in there in terms of how the cohabitation was used. I think that there's something similar here. Again, Viz Media cleans up a lot of Kishimoto's dirty humor. They've done that as far back as Naruto's original manga, whether it be jutsu names or whether it be Inuitos that are slipped in there. I really think there's something here. I got to get my hands on the raw Japanese text in order to be sure, but I'm 90% certain there are sexual Inuitos and deranged kanji in here. Between the potential Inuitos that are slipped in there, as well as the chess game that's going on back and forth between Shikamaru and Ada, I think that this section works for what it should, though I do think it lasts a little longer than it should have. There wasn't as much need to do a recap. I understand Team 7 need to be brought up to speed, but that could have been done off screen, and one way you can get around that is if the chapter would have started around page 14 or 15, where you have Ada and Amato and they're on the train and she's like, I wonder what Shikamaru dear is doing, and then you kind of start things from there and just have Team 7 already caught up. That gives you more room story-wise to either play with more expressions or to pack in a little bit more before you get to that plot twist at the end, or you further explore things after the plot twist at the end where Momoshiki showed. There was some that could have been cut out of this chapter. It's a bit disingenuous if you don't concede that not everything shown in this chapter was needed. Now, shifting things over to the nice and juicy stuff. So while all this is going on, you have Sasuke at disagreement with Naruto, where he concedes, I have no say-so in the matter, but the fact that you're using Boruto and Kawaki for this, it isn't just to watch Ada. You have them under glorified house arrest. And Sasuke, from the appearance, doesn't look like he's fully on board, but he has no choice but to accept it. And that kind of goes back to 2 things. Number one, it goes back to the fact that Shikamaru, as he stated in the chapter, Momoshiki is still a problem. He can still hijack Boruto's consciousness, and they have no answer for it. And then number 2, the thing that you have to keep in mind is that Naruto's telling Sasuke, at least by giving them what they think is a real mission, which technically it is a real mission. This is delicate. It would fall under the category of being an S-rank mission, because if Ada goes off the rails, that can damage peace between the 5 great nations. So this is a huge mission for Team 7. That explains why Konohamaru, a Jonin, is there for an S-rank mission. However, on the other side of it, though, is Naruto's trying to protect these kids from themselves, because he knows that Boruto and Kawaki, if left to their own devices, they'll go after Code, even though right now they can't beat Code because neither Boruto or Kawaki is stronger than Jigen, though you can make an argument Kawaki might be stronger than Jigen because his body was more compatible with the Karma Seal than Jigen, but it's also worth noting Kawaki's Karma Seal is not fully extracted either. So it goes back to the age-old question, is the percentage of the karma extraction, is that equal to the amount of power that you're able to access? That's the $1 million question right there. But as Naruto and Sasuke are having their conversation, one thing that you see is that in the office, Momoshiki briefly manifests, and the moment that Kawaki notices that something's up, Momoshiki immediately gets out of there. And in that brief moment, we learn 2 things. Kawaki can sense Momoshiki, and then we learn that Sasuke, despite not having the rinnegan, is able to sense Momoshiki. And this is why I wanted to wait for more context, because I wasn't sure at first if Momoshiki just froze time all around them and Kawaki and Sasuke were the only ones who could actually move. It looks like Momoshiki got out of there just when those clouds were starting to spread, but Sasuke being able to sense, that's huge. And that's not really a retcon when you look at the lore from the Naruto universe. So I'm fine with the idea that Sasuke was able to sense faintly and Kawaki Kawaki was able to sense where Momoshiki was. Now the question here though is, can Kawaki do that because he's Otsutsuki? That's what I'm wondering, if that's what that was with Kawaki. So my chapter question to you guys is, what are you guys' thoughts about Shikamaru making the gamble like this? And then the second question I have for you guys is, what are you guys' thoughts about Kawaki and Sasuke sensing Momoshiki, and why do you think Momoshiki disappeared as quickly as he showed up? Why do you think that over? Click here to watch my Zora video essay over on Kryptonian Saiyan, and click here to watch my strongest in Naruto, the Otsutsuki clan video.